right.
Good evening. I am Anitra Steele, Chair of the Forums Committee. I want to welcome you to our forum for House Districts 20, 31, 32, 33, and Senate District 11 for the November 5th election. These are all Jackson County districts. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Cladd counties. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse parties or candidates, we are directly involved with sharing the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. I'd like you to know the other league members volunteering with me tonight. Stephanie Revels is our timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Laura and Dave Mountjoy. The public has sent in the questions via the League's website, lwvkc.org. This forum will be recorded and available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. Tonight, we welcome our moderator, Cheryl Barnes, a longtime active member of the Kansas City League. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to participate in this forum. Tonight, we'll hear from the candidates running in 4 state house and 1 Senate district for the opportunity to represent their district's voters. Missouri state representatives and senators work alongside the governor to create laws and establish a state budget. Responsibilities include passing bills on public policy matters, setting levels for state spending, raising and lowering taxes, and voting to uphold or override gubernatorial vetoes. State representatives are limited to 4 2-year terms. State senators are limited to 2 4-year terms. Forums last approximately 90 minutes. I'll ask each candidate the same question selected from those submitted by the public. The order of candidate responses has been determined by random rotation. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question and 2 minutes for a closing statement. All of the candidates running for these districts have been invited. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you may go back to an issue during your 2-minute closing remarks. Let us begin. And the first question will go to Jeff Coleman. Please introduce yourself, tell us your education and background, and most importantly, what your top 3 priorities are in this race. Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman is not
Cheryl,
here. Yes.
Mr. Coleman is the gentleman who never signed in.
Okay, thank you. We'll take him out then. We'll go to Mr. Franklin then. Introduce yourself, tell us your education and background, and most importantly, what are your top 3 priorities in this race?
All right. So good evening, everybody. Once again, I'm Clarence Franklin. I'm running for District 20 here, which is mainly Sugar Creek and East Independence. A little bit about myself. I'm a 4th generation here in Independence. My father worked for Tasty Bread. He was a union worker. My mom took care of the elderly here at the Groves. And they had a top priority of education. So I went to the University of Missouri-Rolla, which has rebranded to Missouri Science and Tech. So under computer science, and minored in mathematics. And then I went out of state for a little bit to work at a couple of large companies as well as a small firm, but came back here in 2011. So a little bit about my top priorities would be the economy, since that affects everybody. schools, which affects everybody as well. And then one that's close to home would be elder care. Anything that I could do to help with our senior population growing, I would like to. Those are the top things.
Good, thank you. Mr. Rowan, introduction, tell us your education and background, and most importantly, your top 3 priorities in this race.
My name is Jeremy Rowan. I'm running for Missouri House District 31 here, most of Blue Springs area, if we're not familiar with that. I'm a small business owner. I've run my own business for about 20 years now. I basically got into this race because in my area, we had a lot of the same people running for the same offices. I was looking to vote some people in, some people out, and we didn't really have candidates. And so we had a lot of races that ran uncontested. I have joined I guess my candidacy to I ran for city council last year in 2023, and then now I'm running for state rep. I want to try to make a difference here in our community, whether at the state level or wherever I can. My main focuses would be schools. I think we need to focus on that. A good community has good schools. It keeps the crime rates down. On top of that, I like to protect our public servants, our police officers. I want to make sure that they are getting paid and getting taken care of so they can then take care of us. And then the other would be just to protect other small businesses in the community. Those are my priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cassidy. I am running in House District 32, which encompasses Green Valley, Oak Grove, Buckner, Sibley, Van Buren, and Jackson County unincorporated. So a lot of the overlap in Eastern Jackson County. One of the reasons that I wanted to run in this race, and one of the reasons we moved out here to Green Valley, my daughter was born with special needs, and we had one of the top special needs programs in the entire state. And I was very impressed with the Green Valley School District. And it was also a very safe community. I currently have lived now in Green Valley for 22 years. And my husband and I, we bought a house here. We don't ever plan on moving, mostly because I don't like moving, but we also liked, seeing how our community has grown. One of my top legislative priorities is, I would echo what Mr. Franklin said, and that's elder care. My daughter was, when she became an adult, we navigated the self-directed services program through the state of Missouri, and we found a lot of holes. We found a lot of loopholes and hoops to jump through, that we understand that the resources for our elderly population, especially as the people who stay here and live here in Green Valley and have raised their kids and grandkids here, don't have a lot of options in this area. So we would like for them to stay here in Green Valley.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls?
Yes. Can you hear
Same
me?
question. Introduce yourself, tell us your education and background, most importantly, your top 3 priorities in this race.
Yeah, so my name is, first off, good evening, and thank you for having us today. My name is Representative Robert Sauls. I represent House District 21, Independence, Missouri. I have been the representative here for 6 years. I was born and raised in Independence, Missouri. I represent the community I grew up in. My background and experience, I was a prosecutor, public defender, and a JAG reservist, did military law for about 11 years. Let's see, I guess education-wise, I started out actually in community college. My mom was a single mom. We didn't have a lot of money, and but I wanted to go to college, and that was the first place I went. I did that for about 2 years, got my undergraduate stuff out of the way, or the basic stuff out of the way, and then went to William Jewell College, where I got a degree in international business. Took a couple of years off, went to law school, came back, and then started as a prosecutor in Buchanan County, and then was a public defender up there. Moved down to back to Jackson County in Kansas City to be a prosecutor and a juvenile attorney. I guess things I've worked on: property tax, funding education. Those are both very important to me. But realistically, having a functioning Senate is also important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. And we'll start with Mr. Franklin. In 1992, riverboat gambling was approved by Missouri voters, partly because tax monies would go to support schools. We now know it is instead of state funds rather than in addition to state funds. Amendment 2, which will be on the November ballot, asks voters to support sports betting, with the taxes generated going to support education, not otherwise specified. Will these taxes be used the same way or be in addition to support from the general funds? Mr. Franklin?
I would hopefully that it would be in addition to the sports betting in general or whatnot. After having lived in Las Vegas for a while and seeing that those towers were not built on charity, that and we didn't have a state income tax there. The power of gambling being able to supply good revenue, consistent revenue, is shouldn't be uh, scoffed at. So I think, and we do want sports betting, at least from the people that I've chatted to. So I would vote yes for the sports betting. But I would hope that when it comes to the budgetary behind the scenes, that they actually do appropriate that correctly to schools, because that would be a major revenue source. So that was our promise with riverboats, and we didn't see it come to fruition there. But I would hopefully like to see it happen this.
Thank you. Mr. Saul, same question. Riverboat
Yes.
gambling and Amendment 2. Will the taxes be used in the same way or be in addition to support from the general funds?
So unfortunately, I think they're the same way. I think realistically, the problem has been the legislature. The legislature has, what they're doing is they're basically taking the money and doing a bait and switch over to money that's coming in, and they're taking money out of general revenue to fund other things. So, and I think that's part of the problem. I mean, realistically, I think the expectation would be that it would be in addition to, but unfortunately, I don't believe that it will be in addition to. I don't think, realistically, I mean, I guess one could also suggest that the money is still, even though it's not going directly to education, the state of Missouri does fund a lot of things, and it does help in one way or another, even if it's not going directly to education. I just don't see it directly going there.
Thank you.
At least not in that way. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I guess I saw I had a couple more seconds, and I was just adding that in. So I don't think that it will. I believe that it will, but I think it will be the classic bait and switch where it's not in addition to. Yeah.
I see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy, riverboat gambling, will the funds be in addition to their current budget or be used in the same way and go to the general funds?
I believe that we've not only seen that historically, when it came to our riverboat casinos, but with the cigarette tax and those kinds of other things, that we have seen that it was, as Mr. Saul said, is a bait and switch. We were told it was going to be in addition to, and then it turned out to not be. And my concern is, that the way that the ballot currently reads is that any percentage of for the next 5 years should be able to fund the schools as long as corporate income taxes are received. However, we know that the plan has already been put in place to reduce corporate income tax revenue over the course of the next 4 years down to 0% corporations. So as I said last night, the math of 0% of zero is still zero. So I do not believe that actually we're going to receive that in addition. What I do think that we've seen in our current budgeting situation is that a lot of the things have been allocated to the general fund and then have been used for special projects away from the line item veto out of purview of the governor. And I think that we need to be able to get back to, away from these special interest groups and these projects and actually have them budgeted for the things, use the money allocated for what they're actually budgeted for.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan?
I'm probably going to echo a lot of the same stuff. If you're for the sports betting because you want to add revenue, some tax dollars in, then I think you should vote for it. If you think you're voting for it to support schools, then I don't think you should. Unfortunately, history shows us that that's not where it's going. Or if it does go there, like they've discussed, they're taking funds from somewhere else. The problem is, again, I'm going to echo what I said before. We keep electing the same people in, and they keep doing the same things. So, I'd like to believe that it's going to go to schools, and I'd like to believe that it's going to help us out. And honestly, it is revenue that we're losing. If people want a sports bet right now, they can cross the state line over to Kansas. If they're over on the St. Louis side, they can go over into Illinois. So they're already doing it. I think that it's fine if we add that in, but I think we're, lying to ourselves if we think that it's going to go to funding the schools, or to addition to funding the schools, I should say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowan, we're going to start with you with this next question.
We can go.
Ro-
Sorry.
I'm
I
sorry?
feel so formal. I'm the only one that's going by Mr. Rowan. You can go by Jeremy. It's fine.
Okay,
She calls
Jeremy.
me Miss Cassidy, so if she wants to
Well,
call me
it's
Miss, what, it's fine.
that martial arts background again. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. This question is, our roads and bridges are in disrepair and our current gasoline tax is among the lowest in the country. Would you support an increase in the gas tax to improve our infrastructure?
Am I still muted? Am I on? Okay, good. I think right now adding any sort of tax is not going to go very well. I do think that our infrastructure and our roads are in desperate need of attention. I do think that we need to focus on those things, but I think that adding another tax again right now, especially in Jackson County, is not going to go over very well. And I mean, we just got our 16-year-old his first car, so we would be getting that 3 times over by the 3 drivers in our house. So I wouldn't be in support of a gas tax right now. No.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, how do
Yeah.
you feel about increasing the gasoline tax?
Yeah, so I actually voted against the gas tax, and I was asked that question last night, and I actually found the vote. So somebody suggested I didn't, but I actually voted against the gas tax. It was Senate Bill 262 or something. I mean, times are tough right now, and I don't think that our response should be to raise the tax on people who are already feeling that pinch. I do believe that the roads and infrastructure are in disarray, and I think that it's obviously very important. And I believe Missouri has fallen behind, but I believe it's also done so because of the fact that the Republicans have a Republican supermajority. They have mismanaged the budget. They have been in charge for 20 years, and they have a 70% Republican supermajority. Last year, they tried to cut the corporate income, or I'm sorry, the corporate tax down to 0. If that were to happen, and let me be clear, Missouri has the lowest corporate tax in the 8 states that surround us. They want to make it even lower and make that 0. If that were to happen, the additional cost, because Missouri has costs, the additional cost will fall to you. And I don't think Missouri should do, I do think that Missouri should do more to fix the roads, but I just think we should look elsewhere to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, the gasoline tax?
I'm going to echo more of what we've heard. I would say no as far as that, because, people don't need an additional tax right now when they're feeling a pinch. I do, however, think that we need to find it somewhere. Hitting potholes and having your suspension go out and then paying for those when people are strapped as it is and they have to, foot car repairs. Sudden car repairs. We seriously need to look to see where that money can come. instead. So we need to take that to the budget or however we would appropriate that for it. Um, you know, we've got a reputation. So in the adjacent states and whatnot as our road quality. So but,
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy?
Well, I wanna bring together kind of all of these things that we've said before. Again, you know, with the historical cigarette tax and the casino tax and the sports betting taxes and things. Do we actually trust our current legislators to actually use the money as it's allocated? I certainly don't. And I don't think that people right now have a lot of trust when it comes to asking for additional taxes and having historically seen that those things don't go for our roads and our infrastructure. And we have, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, but a couple of clowns in our current Congress that have actually tried to rename the highways I-44 to I-70 so that they can switcheroo around the amount of money that was allocated by our federal government. So I simply think we need to fix right now what's going on in Jefferson City, and we need to deal with currently the corporate income tax problem and the major wage gap between our oligarchs. We have some of the richest people actually live in the state of Missouri, and then not put the burden on the middle class. And certainly in gasoline tax, certainly we're talking about any of those other taxes in addition to what they're currently already feeling. Is just, this is not the right time to do it. And certainly we don't trust the people that are currently mismanaging our budget to use it accordingly.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Sauls. Missouri is one of 26 states which allow citizens to amend the Constitution by an initiative petition. Currently, an initiative petition will pass with a simple majority vote after a sufficient number of supporting signatures have been gathered. Efforts in the legislature to raise the threshold fell short this year. Would you support making it more difficult to change the Constitution through our existing petition process? Why or why not?
Yes, so I just want to clarify one thing too. So I do think, because I've heard a lot about the legislature and I've got problems with the legislature, I just will say there are good people working in the legislature trying to fix these things. So I would say to specifically get good people there. As far as the initiative petition process goes, we've been fighting this for the 6 years I've been there. This is something that's not popular. The people don't want it to change. The people want to have a say in their legislature. The reality is that the Republicans are, quite frankly, a little upset about the IP process because the people are passing popular, realistically Democrat ideas, and they don't like that. They want to have control over that. There have been various measures over the years to try to push back, and some of these would make it practically impossible to pass a bill. For example, a couple of years ago, the bill made it so that you had to have a certain percentage of registered voters vote for it. So what a governor could do is, Republican or Democrat, could take legislation they don't like, put it on the August ballot, and then you would never get the required number of registered voters because traditionally the August ballot has a lower turnout than the November ballot. That is, even with 100% of people voting for or against a measure, it wouldn't become law under that situation. And this is just, I will always protect the initiative petition process. I've got so much more to say about this, but there we go.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy, the initiative petition process.
All right, I want to address what Mr. Saul said, and I apologize for my misspeaking. That not that we don't trust everyone in our congressional, that 70% of our Republicans with the stranglehold on the supermajority is mainly what I was respectively speaking about. However, going back to the IP process, I think that there has been some tricks that have been by some bad actors that are trying, they're upset that, for example, Amendment 3, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that it was like, let the voters decide, let it go back to the states. And now that the states have decided that they want to put it on the ballot, then it becomes an issue about, not so much about what the voters want, but about control. And what we need to do is, I do respect the fact that in 26 states that we do have the ability, that's, you know, a little more than half of our country, we have the ability to make our voices count. And so to take that away from the voters when they already perhaps believe that their voice doesn't matter and may not want to vote because of that, I don't think that we should make it harder for them. I think we should allow them to have the avenue that's already currently enshrined in our Constitution.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, initiative petition.
Well, I don't think that we should make it harder. We want their voices to be heard. This is the avenue that's been given to us for it. And to be honest, it's not a cakewalk anyway, to get things to passed and whatnot. So, you know, as you were talking about, as far as getting, you know, people feeling discouraged about not voting and whatnot, I think that this is one way to encourage them, especially after like Roe versus Wade being overturned and whatnot, that we're able to actually just not just accept it, but our voice is actually being heard. So I would support it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan?
I'm just going to clarify because I'm at the very end. This is what I support, making it harder, correct? That's what the question was.
Why or why not would you make it more difficult?
I would not support making it more difficult. The initiative petition is the way that currently, minus Mr. Sauls, the rest of us could get laws approved and that we could make our voice heard in the state house. I think that we need to protect that, and I think that making it harder is just taking the voice away from the people and making them be more frustrated with the process. It is a very hard process. I'm sure some of us have been part of initiative petition processes for many different things. You got to collect all the signatures. They kick half of them out at this point. You go get those signatures again. It's not, like Mr. Franklin said, it's not a cakewalk. It's already difficult as it is, and we don't need to make it any harder. So I would not support making it more difficult.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to come back to you with the next question, Mr. Rowan. And that is, we live in a changing world. How should Missouri elementary and secondary curricula be changed to prepare our students to function in this world?
Oh,
How
a
should
softball question. Wait, thank you. Just kidding. I think that the curriculum, the school district that we live in, that my kids are a part of, is a fantastic district. Our kids are, honestly, I mean, they're my kids, so I'm going to brag on them. But they have the social skills they need that they've learned from school. They have the vocabulary. They're avid readers. They're just really good kids, and I think a lot of it, it comes from the parents, but it also comes from the school. I think that's we just need to focus in on less of the curriculum, but getting more teachers in there. We can change the curriculum. We can have great buildings. We can do this and that. But if we don't have a solid teacher, it doesn't matter. So I think that we need to focus if we're working towards education, we need to focus on getting more teachers in. And by doing that, they'd be giving them better benefits and better pay.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy? How should curricula be changed to prepare our students to function in this world?
Well, I can't particularly speak to the current curriculum. What I can speak to is the curriculum that we experienced with my children, and one of the things that they did focus on were on individual type programs, whether it had to do with mental health. My son was having some awkwardness and social aspects in school, and he had some access to some very good counselors and whatnot. Life skills, being able to have the kind of electives that the kids were able to actually go into the communities and do, bring back, home ec and workshop and all of these other things, instead of making it performance based on teachers, making pay performance based, that we should actually be thinking outside of the box And I do fully believe strongly that we do have some expert studies that show that when kids are very well socialized, that they don't have fear from their peers or from other parents, or, you know, a cyberbullying maybe came up in a conversation last night, that when we see that those issues are being addressed, especially in a post-COVID world, that we are having our kids able to you know, not only just have individual focus programs on certain things that they lack, whether it's reading or mathematics or AP classes.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls?
Yes, so I think the key to this is local control. I trust, you know, we've got a local control process in order to that is responsible for this, and I think that's the key to it. I think the bigger issue here, though, is, you know, Missouri has fallen back on education, and it has been under the last 20 years. And I've got strong numbers for that, because realistically, education is based, you know, the way we determine teacher pay, the way we determine the money that is allocated to schools is by way of the foundation formula. That's that metric that we use to determine how much is going to each individual school district. Those numbers are based on from 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. It's 2 decades old. Missouri is, I don't know, like 50th in teacher pay, starting teacher pay. And I mean, it's just atrocious. You know, I mean, we are realistically, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to break public education so that they can make a stronger push for school choice. And, you know, I think that everything has its place, but I really am irritated with the fact that we keep trying to defund public education. And that's what I think is important. I will also, as far as curriculum goes, you know, we need to be pushing trade schools and college. I think there's avenues for both, and I think that's a strong way that we should work to try to better prepare the youth.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin? And yeah,
I would say, you know, the main thing would be supporting teachers, teacher pay, making it attractive for students to come here, and be that I was surprised that we were at the bottom for pay, but we're, you know, not almost at the bottom for education as well. That means that the teachers are really pulling that rabbit out of the hat to service our kids. I would say that as far as curriculum, you know, the basics, as well as doing studies for other things that make us competitive, so that our kids are better suited for the world when they get out. My final years in high school, I was happy to take VOTEC. So, and it actually pushed me in the avenue of technologies and whatnot. So, you know, it wasn't your typical 1 hour thing. It was a 3 hours over in the VOTEC, and it really did serve me well. And I have heard of other things as far as culinary arts and whatnot that really benefited people and steered their careers later on. If they wouldn't have had that guidance in high school, or you know, that way they would have been floundering afterwards. So a little bit more guidance like that would be helpful.
thank you. Ms. Cassidy, we're going to start you off with this question, and that is, why do you support or oppose Proposition A, which would guarantee paid sick leave and a gradual raise of the minimum wage to $15 from the Missouri current minimum wage of $12.30?
Well, it's been 30 years since we've had any kind of an increase in a living wage. Minimum wage, I know, is higher in Missouri than it is in some states. However, that doesn't give license that, you know, with the cost of living, especially, you know, when we saw inflation and the cost of housing and groceries having gone up, that we definitely need to be able to have people that are working 2 and 3 jobs shouldn't, you know, have to be suffering for that. But we also have to recognize that those people also have families and they have children, and kids get sick, wives get sick, People need to go to the doctor. People need to go and get their car fixed, or they can't get to work. So they need to be able to have those kinds of PTO time or paid sick leave or those kinds of benefits in order to be successful in their jobs. So I do support Proposition A. I think it's long overdue. I don't buy into the idea that it's going to make everything cost more, because we have seen that in other countries where the living wage is a lot higher and the price of McDonald's hamburgers is the same price. So we know that it can work. It's just a matter of making sure that we hold those corporations and those companies accountable. Will it make it harder on small businesses? Absolutely. But I think that many small business owners are good people, and they understand that their employees need the living wage.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, Proposition A, increase the
Uh,
minimum wage.
I would agree with that as well. The cost of things are going up anyway. So, and to not keep up with the minimum wage is just making it hard for families. Now, I heard that somebody had said something along the lines of, well, McDonald's jobs are just being done by students, you know. Um, yeah, okay. Well, when you're in high school, you work there as well. But I do remember, when I went to college, and they asked you how much you made, that you should have saved 80% of that. And, I figured that there was no way that I was going to be able to save 80% of my fast food wages when I had to buy a car, and pay for other things as well. So that was just unrealistic. So, let alone to be working there and having a family and whatnot. Now the other side there with the time off, you've been at work and you've had somebody that comes in with a cough, and you're like, no, you need to go home. I can't afford to get sick. So yes, I do think that's incentive for people to just take a break and stay home when they are sick, not to get the other workers
Thank you.
sick as well. So
Thank you. Mr. Rowan, Proposition A.
I support Proposition A. We are in desperate need of a minimum wage increase. I am a small business owner, and running a small business, I know I get what I pay for. If I'm paying somebody less than minimum wage, I'm getting less than minimum wage amount of work out of it. So I do think that we should get an increase. I think you'll see more people start joining the workforce. I know here in Blue Springs, one of the chamber members' complaints is that we don't have a strong workforce. Well, if we pay them more, they'll probably most likely show up. And as far as sick leave goes, yeah, I know that there have been times where my kids were sick and I'm a small business, or I could just close and stay home. But if I wasn't, I would have had to figure out some other way to take care of them. We need to work on allowing parents to be able to stay home and take care of their kids, let alone if I get sick, like we've talked about before. If I go to work with that sickness and it's communicable, I'm spreading it to the whole group, and then we're having a whole lot of people out of work then. So I'm in support of sick leave, and instead of accruing it over time, but getting it and then adding the minimum wage. I think it's a right all workers should have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Saltz?
Yes, yeah, thank you. So I do support Prop A, and I do support the increase in the minimum wage, but I think perhaps just as important to that is the sick leave component. So I told this story last night. I was knocking doors, and I can't remember if it was my very first term or my second term, but I remember going to a door in my district, and the guy there was a butcher at one of the grocery stores in my community. And I was asking him, what are some issues? And that was the thing that he told me. He said, we don't have sick leave. And it made me think about that, the situation. And again, I can't remember if it was before COVID or around that time, but the idea is that there are people out there working these jobs that are, they have to choose, am I going to go into work sick, or am I going to maybe not make rent this week, right? I mean, these are real problems and real dilemmas that people have. And realistically, as a consumer, as a society, I don't want that person coming to work sick because he's handling meat and cheese and you know, whatever else, and potentially passing that on to me. And I think just making sure that there is the option, and encouraging people to stay home if they are sick. It's not even, you know, I mean, it stops spread disease, and quite frankly, you know, I don't want to get sick. So I think that's a very important part.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll start with you, Mr. Franklin, with this question. Missouri has the 5th highest gun death rate in the country, according to a recent article in the Kansas City Star. More than half of these deaths are suicides. As a member of the legislature, what gun laws would you support?
Well, I'd support a couple. um, Common sense, gun laws like uh, reporting if your firearm has been stolen, background checks, red flag laws, things like that. It's just something that we can do that you know would make things a little bit safer. Um, and on the flip side of that, you know, putting a little more money towards maybe mental health, um, healthcare and whatnot. I speak personally because I've had a family member that uh, had an issue, you know, and I showed up at the sheriff's station to pick him up. And, you know, and then we discussed that he shouldn't have firearms for them. So he gave me all of his guns because he knew that he had anger issues and that he had a mental health crisis going on. So I can see the value of that. And you know, people don't necessarily reach out all the time to do that, but we need to, as a, you know, as a community, look at that kind of thing, so to, you know, protect that way. So, and
Thank you. I'm glad that had a happy outcome. Ms. Cassidy.
One of the things I would like to see, and it's, you know, when people purchase guns, perhaps a percentage of that should be, I know we hate to talk about raising taxes or adding taxes, since we just all talked about, we didn't want any extra taxes, but, you know, having a kind of a tax that goes into a fund for our mental health, you know, for especially, we know that young men are probably the biggest group of folks that are affected by suicide as well as gun violence, as far as school shootings. So I think that, you know, while yes, we want to make sure that the parents have the resources available to their kids, we also need to be okay with the school districts and counselors as part of those guardrails. But as far as, you know, we definitely need to be able to have enforcement of domestic violence. For example, if somebody has a restraining order against his neighbor, then that person probably shouldn't have a firearm that he can take over there and threaten his neighbor with. But I mean, I realize that those are common sense gun laws to those of us that checks the open carry.
Miss Cassidy, you have frozen, and I'm not sure
that is definitely a cause of concern for our police. They don't know. Am I still here?
Yep, you froze.
Am I?
Yes.
Had you finished? Your time was up, but I don't want to cut you off.
No, I finished.
Because we were
Can you
frozen.
hear me?
Okay. Yeah, yes, we can hear you now.
Yep.
See me though?
Yes.
I can't see me.
Oh, I
here we
can't.
go.
No, I can't. We
Okay.
can't see you, but
How
we
about
can hear
that?
you.
There you go.
Is that
There we
better? Okay. No,
Okay.
I was finished though. My timer went off, so I finished.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Saul's gun legislature.
Yeah, so yes, thank you. You know, I do support the Second Amendment. I've had firearms realistically since I was a teenager. I used to hunt with my grandfather. I've served in the military. I own rifles, shotguns, handguns. But I would also say that, you know, I think law enforcement has asked for the ability to keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. And right now they can't do that because of the laws that the legislature has passed. And my advice would be to talk to a cop. Presently, it's not illegal for a 15-year-old to be roaming the streets of Kansas City with a firearm concealed upon his or her person. We tried to pass this law 2 years ago to make it illegal for a teenager to have a concealed firearm on public property without adult supervision, not hunting. And the of the 70% Republican legislature that I'm talking about, all but one of them voted against us. These are the common sense things that, I mean, there's the number of people who think that's a good scenario is very small, right? Like I know a lot of Republicans who are like, oh no, I don't think a 15-year-old should be on the streets of Canada. I mean, not even just for the safety of others, but for the safety of the 15-year-old. And I think those are one of those things that we've been trying to do that we can't because, again, we've got a 70% Republican supermajority. I'd also say, time's up.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan?
Yeah, this is a sticky wicket on this one. I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. My family, their guns are very important to them. Hunters, we're outdoorsmen. We, like to use them for sport. What I'm looking at is, again, common sense gun laws. Like Mr. Sauls was talking about, our police, they need more, I guess, laws that are in their favor where they can get some of these guns out of dangerous people's hands. We just need to limit the access to it. I think we need to do some background checks. And obviously, again, if somebody has some sort of anger issue or mental issue, or there has been a report with the police, then they should not have access to those guns because it's going to lead to something not very good. But I think we all should still have the right to have them as long as we're using them safely. And one of the things that when I did my concealed carry class that they kept hammering home was that those weapons are dangerous in untrained hands. And so if we are running them through training, if we're getting things done, we're going to have a lot safer gun owners out there. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, we're going to start with you with this question. There are 6 ballot measures on the November 5th ballot. 2 are constitutional amendments sponsored by the legislature. The next 2 questions concern these amendments. Amendment 6 would impose a $3 fee in every circuit court criminal case, which would go towards funding retirement benefits for sheriffs and other court personnel. In 2021, the Supreme Court rejected this approach as unconstitutional, saying that those fees are not reasonably related to the administration of justice. What is your position on Amendment 6?
Again, just to be clear, my position on Amendment 6, and that's for the adding $3 to already
to every circuit court criminal case, which would go towards funding retirement benefits.
a lot of time. Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
My timer's running. I have a lot to say.
Stephanie, please start it over.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't support it. I think that adding that on to people already paying fines. I mean, those fines are supposed to go to those places already, as far as I understand. I think that we could find a way to fund those retirement funds. We do need to take care of those people doing those jobs. They have very, very important jobs. But I think that doing it with this additional money on top of it, basic tax is what it is. I don't support that.
Thank you.
It in my time. Good job.
Mr. Franklin. $3 court fee in every circuit court criminal case would go towards funding retirement. The Supreme Court rejected that approach as unconstitutional. What is your position on Amendment 6?
I don't agree with that either. I don't believe that revenue should come from fines for a retirement. I do believe they do deserve a good retirement pension and whatnot. However, having it come from incentivizing, volume through the system is not the way to do it. It just rings to me of like a speed trap. you're in a small town and the police officer stops you, you know, to make the town revenue. So, so no, I would not agree with that. So.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy?
I'm gonna agree that it does incentivize the quantity of, you know, additional, whether it be speeding tickets or, traffic fines or even higher, cases of, you know, crimes that are just shuttled through our courts or whatnot. I mean, I think the idea is understandably good, because I think that what they're trying to do is say, well, they're already in there, they already got to pay a fine, it's only $3. But when we're talking about the volumes that you're wanting to talk about for regarding funding the pensions and the retirement for our sheriffs and our police departments in the entire state of Missouri, suddenly now you're putting the onus on, the smaller towns to have a quota for those kinds of things. And we all know that, you know, that it disparages already the people that are struggling, the disadvantaged, poor Black men, kids, those people that can't afford that extra $3 anyway, because that might make the difference between them eating lunch today or not. It could be also something that we should be funding anyway throughout retirement programs, whether it's, investment in the police funds, and however that they would do that through their unions or whatnot. But I do believe that the timing of this is also wrong. There might be a time to address this, but as far as the quantity and incentivizing, I think that's wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls?
Yes, so first I want to let everyone know, on my Facebook page, Robert Sauls, I do an in-depth analysis on each and every single ballot initiative, and I've been doing it for the last 6 years. Very long description about the history, the language, and then at the very bottom, I have this is what people like and this is what people don't like, so that way you can make your own decision based off of all that information. I think that's a very good thing to do. I've done it on all of these, and I would encourage anybody who's watching this to go there just simply to look at that. I'm not trying to, you know, push myself, but I think that's you'll get some questions answered if you do that. I understand everything that everybody has said. I think those are valid concerns, but I tend to support it, because I think that this is a situation. These are people who are, you know, they've worked their whole lives for the public and the community, and you know, there are court costs, there are associated court costs. It's just part of what it is. That they're not extremely high presently, and I don't think $3. I don't realistically think it's going to change. You know, I guess I left out. I talked about that earlier. I was a prosecutor for 6.5 years and a public defender, so I've seen this in the system. I don't think it's realistically going to increase by much. It may a little bit, but I think it's a worthy cause, and I tend to support it. But I understand why people might not want to.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, we're going to start with you with this next question. And this is regarding Amendment 7, which is also proposed by the legislature, and it is a two-parter. It would forbid ranked choice voting, which is essentially a means of having an instant runoff in elections in which there are multiple candidates. It also states that only U.S. citizens would be allowed to vote, which is already the law in every state, including Missouri. What is your position on Amendment 7?
Right. So this is another one of those examples. Like I said, I've been in the legislature for 6 years. Every year we've dealt with the initiative petition process. I'm going to go off and come back and I'll explain. Every year we've had that. The Republican supermajority has tried to add in this tricky ballot language about citizens voting, non-citizens voting. Non-citizens are not voting. If they are voting, it's illegal and they should be prosecuted. At least not in Missouri. I should say that there are a couple cities out on the coasts that have that option at the local level, but here in Missouri, non-citizens are not voting. So this is what we call ballot candy. It's attached to something to try to get people to vote against something that they think people may want, or basically it's to try to tilt the vote in favor, because there's nobody on this forum, I believe, that is advocating for non-citizens to vote. Yet this is the thing that people are going to see, and they're going to go, well, of course I don't want non-citizens to vote, even though they're not presently voting in Missouri. So I think it's tricky. I think it's deceptive as far as ranked choice voting goes. I think that should be left up to the local level. I don't think we should be outlawing this with ballot candy, and that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Cassidy. Would you-
I agree. I think it's performative measures, because I think that they want to look like that 70% of the legislature that are the majority that are Republicans have been feeding us a line, and they've been fed a line themselves, that we have our elections are not secure. And one of the things that I can say for sure, in Missouri, we have some of the strictest election laws that there are in our nation. And I feel very secure with those. But there are people that really wonder, with all of the messaging out there, that our elections may not be secure, and that people are having non-citizens, non-residents, dead people vote, these kinds of things. And we understandably know that there are individual cases here and there. There have been, there always will be. There's not going to ever be a perfect system. But to throw it in there with ranked choice voting seems like kind of a weird segue for me, because ranked choice voting, at least locally at this level, I'm the only Democrat that's running, and my opponent was the only Republican running. There is no other choice. So ranked choice is really not an issue here, but in larger metropolitan areas and things where I could see where that would be a thing. But to completely put it in there, to get it in our constitution that we just want to vote against it. Oh, but meanwhile, we want to make sure that non-residents and non-citizens don't vote with that. I just think that it's just unnecessary.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, ranked choice voting and non-citizens voting.
Well, the non-citizens voting is, it's, when I first read it, it was like, people call it ballot candy. I was calling it a distraction. I'm like, it's something that's already there. That's something that doesn't need to be written down. So what's the other part of this? And let's analyze that instead. So that's where I looked at the reg choice. And I came to the conclusion that it's not something that needs to be banned and whatnot. It does add a layer of complexity during the election process and whatnot, as far as tallying and whatnot. And not everybody has effectively implemented it and whatnot. But I don't think we should ban it. Let the local layers do what they do as far as that. And if they want to try it, I'm for that. But banning it before it, yeah, I just don't see that. But yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan?
I'm going to start off with, before I got into this side of politics, one of the things I did as I started during 2020 and all that, I started working with the Jackson County Election Board. It's kind of how I got into this, where I got to where I am today. And I can speak just for the Jackson County Election Board, but those things, voter security is their top priority. There is just nothing that I've seen that would make me feel that there's any threat to our votes out there. So the fact that they want to try to keep non-citizens from voting, again, I'm just going to repeat what people said before: a distraction, ballot candy, whatever we want to call it. The ranked choice voting, I think that should be up to local governments. I think they should be able to do it however they want to. Like Ms. Cassidy said, it's kind of a non-starter with the elections that I've been part of, that I've been watching since 2020. There isn't really a choice. There's usually two people, if there's two people on the ballot. So ranked choice is not anything we would use, at least out here. So.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan, we're going to start with you with this next question. And It is, do you support Amendment 3, the right to reproductive freedom initiative? Will you commit to upholding the will of the voters if it passes?
Okay. And again, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I think that the way that we've gotten to this point to have this, to get the initiative petitions, to get this on the ballot, and the fight that it's gone through to get here is kind of where I'm going to start. I think that the trigger laws that enacted the overturning of Roe v. Wade here in the state was gross government overreach. I think that we should have had the ability to vote on this beforehand and not have to work so hard to get it on the ballot. It should be up to the people. I think I'm in support of it. I think that a woman's choice should be between her and her doctor. I don't think the government should be stepping into that. That being said, whatever the turnout is for any of these ballot measures or propositions that happen, I'm promising to get, when I get in office, to uphold the will of the people, whatever that should be.
Thank you. Mr. Saul, same question?
Yes, so I was in the legislature in 2019 and I voted against House Bill 126, which was the trigger law that put us where we are today, with no exceptions for rape and incest, and realistically, life of mother even put in jeopardy because she has to be in immediate danger of losing her life. So I support Amendment 3 and to restore reproductive rights in our state. I think that I believe Missouri's gone too far, right? I mean, I think that we are here because the Republican supermajority put us here. We tried to put exceptions for rape and incest. We tried to make it so that there was more safety around the idea of a woman's life. And that's not the case. Like the present situation, the woman has to be in immediate danger. And that puts her at the risk of losing her life. You know, Missouri has maternal mortality rates that are on par with third world countries. There are parts of the state in rural Missouri with with fewer hospitals. You are basically you might as well have a baby in Peru, and you know, places without running water you have just as good a chance there as you do in Missouri, and it's because of what Republicans have done. But I don't think it's enough to vote for Amendment 3. I think you need to vote for Amendment 3 and people who are willing to ensure that it stays, that it's upheld. And that's not what my opponent has said. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy?
I'm going to finish Robbie's thought there that there has been some gross misstatements by our Republican opponents that I mean to the point where it's clearly fear-based, and it's just gross. They're trying now. I currently saw a billboard that was saying that it is actually working actively against having women in their health care by voting yes on Amendment 3, which is a gross injustice misstatement. Sorry, I combined two words. Pretty good at that lately. Anyway, obviously I do support Amendment 3. Again, I was very I was sick to my stomach about the trigger law that literally just went into effect, and where we had people cheering that yay, we did this, we got this done. And it just I had a good friend who actually she did pass away from having a miscarriage, but she was in another country. But I have seen that happen where it is up to the doctor to determine whether or not that she's that close to death or not. However, what we've seen with our healthcare is really not maybe up to the doctor, but it might be up to the insurance company. So I don't know that we need to be able to allow our politicians to have those kinds of private conversations regarding a very private choice.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Franklin?
I'd have to say yes as well. This is women's health care. I don't see it in any other way. This should be between the woman and her doctor, having bodily autonomy and whatnot. The people that I've talked to, and I'm going to take this from a step after Roe v. Wade now, and this is even with family members and whatnot, they now have plans in place that if something happens, they've had the discussions like with my niece, if you need something, what's the next state? Where can we go? Buying pills, stockpiling that because it may not be available later on and whatnot, and having those tough discussions they would have had anyway, but now they have to have contingency plan. And from my personal, as far as like going to the ER or whatnot, I can't imagine a woman being told to go home because you're not bad enough, that we can't treat you right now. And then they have to, enable that backup plan, maybe to go to another state or whatnot. So it's just ridiculous. This is part of healthcare. And it should be treated as such. Definitely.
Thank you. Before we get to our 2-minute closing statements, here's the last question from us, the league. What is the one question you wish I had asked, and how would you answer it? And Ms. Cassidy, we'll start with you. The one question you wish we had asked.
I guess the one question I would like to have heard maybe is a little bit more about the property taxes that we're trying to, I think it's a bipartisan issue regarding Jackson County, especially where we're actually wanting to, make it easier or as easier, cheaper. That's not the word I want. We want to make it more reasonable as far as how much is being paid in property taxes. And I know that there's a lot of different ideas on how to do that, and how to get that done. And there's been pushback, especially in this area where I think we're all in, where, we're not necessarily in, downtown Kansas City and those kinds of areas, but we're kind of out on the eastern side where we have seen unrealistic ideas regarding how much our homes are being assessed and valued without them even having been seen by an assessor. And that one of the questions would have been, do I agree with, and the answer is yes, that we should have an elected assessor and not an appointed one.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, what question do you wish we had asked?
Well, you had some good questions, but it always comes to me because it's the closest that's hitting to me right now is the whole, having the discussion about elder care. And that's because I'm a caregiver for my mom and my dad as well, who happens to live elsewhere. But it doesn't seem that we have much discussion over, people think that there's, you go from healthy to possibly, nursing home, and there's a lot of stuff in between. We've had some health events in our household here, where we need help and whatnot. And both of them happen to make above the line as far as qualifying for Medicaid. But they've worked all of their lives. They've saved as much as they could. We've navigated the Medicare as well as possible. And it does help for most needs. But for home health care, as far as somebody coming in to assist with that, or services that could help out or relieve, a family member who is the caregiver for just a small brief period, I think we should have some serious conversation about that as well. So
Thank you. Good point. Mr. Rowan, what question do you wish we had asked?
You guys asked a lot of great questions. We covered a lot of things. Jennifer took mine, but I have a backup one, luckily. Ballot language. We see that on a lot of the amendments that are on the ballot this time. The way that they're worded leads to a lot of misinformation. It leads to people voting against their wishes. I know that there's a couple times I've voted. I'm avid, I'm getting from my schooling, I'm sure, to read through the whole thing, the whole question before you answer it. A lot of times, again, the first two sentences sound amazing and I'm all for it. When you get down to the bottom side of it, it's very vague where those monies are going to, for example, or again, oh, of course I don't want non-citizens voting, but I don't know, to get that, I have to get also slide in rank voting. So I think that I would like to see something done with the ballot language. It's a lot confusing for a lot of people, and again, just leads to misinformation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a little more time? Did you want to keep going, or is that it?
I'm pretty good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're
Mr.
good.
Sauls.
Yeah, so my opponent isn't here today, but if he were, what I would want you to ask is, will you uphold the will of the people, specifically with regard to Amendment 3? Because what he has said is that if he is the state senator, he will rectify, which leads me to believe that he would undo the will of the people if that is what is, that he would rectify the problem, rectify Amendment 3. I think that this is an important. I think, as we just talked about Amendment 3, I think it's very important. I think there's lots of reasons it's important, but I think making sure that that is clearly on the record, because I don't, like I said before, it's not enough just to vote for Prop A and Amendment 3. You need to vote to support vote people in office who are willing to uphold the will of the people, specifically with regard to that, because when they speak and the people speak, the politicians should listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now it's now time to start our 2-minute closing remarks. So I want to personally thank you all for joining us. And in addition, we'd like to ask that you share the League's website with voters and encourage all citizens to show up on each election day and exercise their right to vote. You have been a fabulous panel, and we really appreciate your answers and the insights you provided. Now, for your closing remarks, and Mr. Franklin, we'll start with you. 2 minutes, please.
Sure, absolutely. So once again, want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. And as you know, it's important public education about the issues and whatnot. Going back to myself, I'm new to politics. So I have to admit I have a few preconceptions about how things should run, and I'm sometimes a little bit idealistic about things. But I will say that I'm not new to critical thinking or listening to people as far as those that I'm serving or gathering requirements from. And I'm good at coming up with an action plan. So with that, after doing a lot of listening and hearing from people, I've concluded a little bit that, a lot of people want to protect their interests. A lot of people want to protect their traditions. We love traditions, that's Christmas lights every year. But a lot of people want to do this by standing still, and we need to move forward. We need to move forward with a lot of things to get us where we need to be, whether that be elder care, which I've talked about, schools, housing, infrastructure, the economy, workers' rights. We need to move forward to get to a good place with all of these things. So I've since being back in my district here, I've seen some things that need some hard work to get them. They've made a lot of progress, but we have a little bit more to go. And once we get done with the regular things, we can look at other things. Like I would be excited to get a maglev between Kansas City and St. Louis. Black and Veatch did a study. We're a perfect city for it. I'd love to see that go through, but we have to work on the other things first. So right now, I humbly ask for your vote here on November 5th and promise to honor everyone I serve.
Thank you. Ms. Cassidy, your 2-minute closing remarks?
Well, I first want to thank you and the League of Women Voters for having us and hosting these panels. I know you guys have been doing quite a lot. I watched a few, and it's been very interesting to see how everyone has their ideas and opinions. And one of the things that I felt that running as a Democrat kind of suited me was that we definitely we want to do all the things. And sometimes I know that doing all of the things, when especially our Republican opponents want to concentrate on one or two things, it's really easy to get kind of scattered, and it's easy to lose focus, and sometimes it's easy to get disheartened. And one of the things that I have found that has actually been joyful to me about this campaign is talking to people and being able to listen to them and to know that they actually have ideas themselves that would never have occurred to me. So the fact that it's a group effort, and that wanting to work with both sides, and that I think it came up before, I think last night, and then a few different. I think we're more alike than we are different as human beings, and that we sometimes we just get down, and I know that I do, and we want to keep ourselves focused. And I look forward to right now it's day by day. And I think that what I'm trying to do is just get to the point where I feel that, you know, I can help the people of our community. And once we get to that point, and then we can really start doing the work, which is governing. And, you know, I'm a rookie at this myself, like Mr. Franklin and Mr. Rowan, and not a veteran like Mr. Sauls, but we definitely learn from each other. And the more that I learn, the more I feel that we are absolutely all doing the right thing. And I think this feels like our time. So thank you. I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, your 2-minute closing remarks.
Yes, thank you. The one thing I really didn't talk about is actually one of the things that one of the most important reasons why I'm running for state senate. I don't know what kind of, I don't know. I mean, everybody follows to a certain degree what's going on in Jefferson City, but those who don't or don't have as much, it is in complete chaos. It is the Republican supermajority makes up, as I said, 70% of the legislature. About 20% of the 70% is made up of conservative caucus members. I can tell you this, the regular Republicans and the conservative caucus members vote together 97% of the time. The difference is the regular Republicans understand that there's a process here that there's compromise. It's better to get 80% of an issue than 0%. And the conservative caucus members would burn the whole place down because they just don't care. The outcome of Senate District 11 is critically important to the future of the Senate. And my opponent's philosophy is aligned with that conservative caucus. He is being supported by Bill Eigel and Denny Hoskins, and their brand of politics is founded upon chaos, and it must not be allowed to spread in Missouri. And we have to stop the gridlock and dysfunction. We must elect leaders who put people first. And I know this sounds cliche, but my honest assessment of the Missouri State Senate would be that too often partisan politics get in the way, and we need someone who puts a person who, like myself, who is dedicated public servant to make sure that doesn't happen, that partisan politics aren't the issue, and that's not getting in the way. I am focused on raising teacher pay, helping more parents find affordable childcare, preventing gun violence, and reducing crime by supporting our police and investigating in mental health care, housing, and job training. I would also say that I have done a lot in my 6 years in the legislature to help people, and that's exactly what I'm focused on, and that's exactly what I'll do as your senator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Mr. Rowan, your 2-minute closing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys all well, thank you, the League of Women Voters, for holding this. Thank you guys all for showing up today. Again, without the rest of you joining this, it isn't a forum. Just like when we don't have people running against our elected officials, it's not really an election. Again, I'm just going to go back to, I'm running for this this seat because I feel like, and I apologize, Mr. Sauls, I'm not including you in this. You're not representing me personally.
Okay. It's all right.
Our elected officials here locally and up into the state and even further, there's been a lack of communication, and I've tried to contact my personal state rep that's currently, I guess he's terming out after this time, and it's hard to get a hold of him, or to get a call back. I want to make sure that I am listening to the people, because that is how we get things done. I'm trying to make myself as accessible as possible. I do want to get down there and I want to uphold the will of the people. Whatever they vote on any of those measures, I want to make sure that I'm backing that. Yes, there's ways I'm going to vote on it. And I do hope it goes my way, but whatever the will of the people is, I want to make sure that we are backing that. Currently, again, my representative is not upholding that, in my personal opinion. They have voted against different things. I remember when he came to a city luncheon and was very, very excited about his non-citizens voting bill he wanted to put through, on how everybody was worried about it. And we all were like, nobody's worried about it. But here we are in November and about to vote on it. I want to make sure that we're doing things again to support the people. I want to focus on three main things. I want to make sure I'm supporting our schools, whether they're locally or all over Missouri, because again, that's important to the growth of our cities and our municipalities. I want to make sure we're protecting and paying our first responders, because they're taking care of us, whether it's our fire or our police, watching crime. And I want to make sure that we're working on that infrastructure, because without roads, you can't come to my business or the other businesses here in town. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Now I'm going to turn things back over to Anitra. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the November election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org. Please take a moment to share our forums with your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. And remember, for voter and candidate information, visit lwvkc.org and vote411.org. Thank you, candidates, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Good night.
Bye.